support level in here. In the middle of this trend area, you can also see that there was a rotation where buyers were adding to their buying positions. This is another thing to notice when you see a trend like this. Now, here is basically the same scenario as before. Those 3 rejections of higher prices worked as a resistance in the past. Also, this weak high worked as a resistance in the past. Now, let me draw a line in here. And this is exactly the place where the pullback occurred. This is exactly the place where the price reacted. And it did not only react to the resistance becoming support, but it also reacted to this rotation. The buyers who were adding to their buying positions in here were defending their buying positions when the price made a pullback and they pushed the price upwards from this level again. Alright, so that's basically the same setup as before. The same thing happened. Also, what we have here is sort of weak high, and as you can see, the price again tests above it. Now, it gets pretty funny, because the same scenario happens again. We have this weak high, and also this high. Then we have a rotation in here, and if I draw a line in here, like this, then you can see that it is exactly the place where the price retraces, makes a pullback, and reacts to. So again, for the 3rd time, the same thing happened. Weak highs get tested, the price goes past them, there's a rotation inside the trend area, buyers adding to their buying positions there, the price retraces and reacts exactly to this zone and continues upwards. So the next thing that happened is a rotation. Here's a rotation, then the price shifts downwards and another rotation. What happened in those rotations is that the buyers from this uptrend most likely got rid of their positions and sellers were taking over. So in a rotation, sellers were building up their positions. Afterwards, they initiated a new trend. So, after this aggressive trend development, you can see that there is a strong rejection of lower prices, which, as I said, indicates an end of a trend or a temporary end of a trend. In this case, you can see that it was only a temporary end of a trend. So there was a little rotation, false breakout, and again the selling activity continued. The downtrend continues. By the way, this is a weak high which should get tested. So as the trend continues downwards, there is a strong rejection of lower prices and a rotation in here. And this tells you that the trend could temporarily be over, or that there could be a new trend. In this case, this downtrend is over and there is a new trend, new uptrend. What is also worth noticing is this rejection of higher prices. And as you can see, this resistance worked as a support when there was the pullback. Afterwards, there's a weak high. And this is kind of funny because normally I would think that this weak high would get tested. And in this case, there was another weak high, almost exactly at the same level. And the level did not get breached. This is not what usually happens, but it happened in here. the trend turned and there was another selling activity in here. And by the way, one small thing to notice, this resistance also worked as a support. The reaction was not so aggressive, not so strong, but it was there. This is exactly the place where it turned for a little pullback. Have a look at this trend. You can see that there were rotations within the trend area, sellers adding to their selling positions there, afterwards pushing the price even lower. Then what happened is that those aggressive buyers who rejected the lower prices in here started defending their buying positions and they pushed the price upwards. This is a reaction to this rejection, alright? To this aggressive rejection. One small thing to notice is a failed auction in here. Those three highs form a failed auction which gets breached in here. Alright, and then the price continues upwards. The price opens in here and there's an opening gap. And usually gaps like that got filled pretty quickly. If they don't, then there is a strong trend. So if the price continued upwards from this place without filling the gap, then most likely it would be a start of strong uptrend. In this case, the gap got filled pretty quickly with aggressive selling activity. Afterwards, another gap, price goes lower, makes a rejection of lower prices and tests this weak low, tests below it. Then there are some rejections of lower prices in here and this gap gets filled with this rejection of higher prices. So the gap is filled and there is a little rotation in here, little sideways price action, not much happening, only sellers adding to their selling positions to continue in the trend to push the price even lower. So I would say that in this downtrend, the sellers were adding to their positions in here, most likely they were building up their selling positions in here, also in here, then in here in this rotation, then in this rotation. Alright, so it's always rotation, trend, rotation, trend, rotation, trend, rotation, trend. So after the trend development, what happens is strong rejection of lower prices, which, as I said many times already, is a sign of the end of the trend. So strong rejection of lower prices indicates aggressive buyers and new trend starts from there, from this aggressive rejection. And again, in this uptrend, you can spot places where there were rotations and aggressive trend development. So it's always rotation followed by a trend. Rotation, aggressive trend. Rotation, trend. You can also notice how this weak high gets breached, gets tested, and also the pullbacks within the trend are in here, where there was a resistance. Those highs mark resistance and the price makes a pullback to them, so it works as a support. Then this weak high also works as a resistance in here. Again, the price makes a pullback to it. reacts to it very nicely, very precisely. Then there is this high,